Hi, everybody. I'm Angela, the Director of Development and Communications at Montana Audubon. I'm new and I'm really excited to be doing a live chat here today with our Director of Policy and Science, Amy Seaman. If you do not know Amy, you should know Amy. She is a powerhouse, she is amazing, and she is spearheading our policy work right now in the Montana legislature. And if you don't know this as well, you should. It's a big year for policy, it's a big year for the legislature, and we are there just like we have been for many years. Policy and advocacy are a huge part of our mission at Montana Audubon. So, if you don't know our mission is to promote the appreciation, knowledge, and conservation of Montana's native birds, other wildlife, and natural ecosystems to safeguard biological diversity for current generations and the future, too. So I'm new, so that was pretty cool that I was able to just say that mission without looking at anything. So that's a good sign. I think we're on a good track. So let's jump into it. Hi, Amy. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's good to chat.
Yes, it is. So let's jump right into it. As I mentioned, policy and advocacy have been a huge part of our work since the 80s. It's a huge part of what we do. And so, can you talk a little bit about what that's like, continuing that legacy in your current role?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll try to put some dates on it that now seem pretty back there when you think about it, though almost right around the time I was coming into existence, a little earlier even, we were getting really involved in legislative issues. So actually the first year we participated was as early as 1978. So that was really,
Oh.
sorry, 79, it would have been our odd years. We always like to refer to the odd years getting quite odd in Montana because the session is here. So it is actually our 42nd year now working on some issues. And as you can imagine, the scope of things we've been concerned about has grown over that time. And what I'd say is the most interesting thing is every year I'm not ceased to be amazed at how many issues really do connect to the work we do and the mission we have and the issues we're concerned about and how conservation happens. So it's just super impressive. And then it makes it hard to forget every day that you're working, that you are working also on behalf of so many people that also believe in our mission, because it is a great mission. And then having the future generations piece is a clear reason why you should be working on policy issues. So yeah, it never ceases to amaze me how many things are going on. And also because it's a small state, we're actually able to get things done. And the fact that we do have some things done during this legacy, like helping improve setbacks for logging or create good subdivision policy, which now is surprisingly getting altered quite a bit, or there are a lot of proposals. And then work we've been able to do to to benefit non-game wildlife's really been impressive. So it makes you work hard every day, but you get to learn, so it's exciting.
Yeah, and you are certainly working hard. So let's dive into our priorities. So you mentioned a few of the things that we've been able to accomplish over the years. What about this year? What are the things that you're really following and looking at?
Well, this year we're not too surprised. It's really similar to 2019, where we're seeing a lot of issues that affect large predators like wolves. And although grizzlies like to fall in that category often, I'm going to start mentioning all the time that large omnivores like grizzlies, because they eat a lot more than just meat. Um, those kind of issues that really are complex and have a lot of regional differences or regional nuances to how they need to be managed. But then we see a lot of state policies, which can be cumbersome when you're trying to manage something that does have that many regional nuances. So we weren't surprised to see too many attacks there, but we are starting to see, just a general push for an increased number of take of wolves, especially. Um, and unfortunately, we saw a bill that we thought we had put to sleep a little bit come back today. So Senate Bill 98, this issue with an increased take of grizzly bears, was something that was sort of expected, but is been brought forward in a bit more of an open way than we'd hoped. So while those challenges are there, we did expect them and so have a lot of opposition. Of course, it's really different operating this year because a lot of bills we maybe beat back by one vote or a veto last year are in a much different position this year. So not too unexpected, but a big time priority. And as well, we expect to see some legislation coming out soon that will have a lot of implications for how we conserve wild bison in the state. And that's been an issue we've followed for many, many years. A little bit more surprisingly, I would say, are the number of issues um, that seek to alter or impact the subdivision laws in Montana, which to many people's points actually haven't been updated in quite a while. So it seems like there does seem to be an update needed, especially with like so much demand for growth in a lot of areas,
Yeah.
for affordable housing and for developing within the city more easily so it can just be concentrated where it really should be and hopefully does have less impact. So we're seeing a lot of support and opposition that's very nuanced for subdivision bills. Um, Personally, find it to be one of the most interesting pieces of legislation that does impact wildlife, and
Yeah.
primarily because often this development gets centered or proposed around riparian areas because they're wonderful places to live. They're
Mhm.
open places at the moment that are all being developed rapidly. And that's our primary concern because those habitats really are only about 4% of the state. So it's a big challenge, and managing them well is really important. So we're hoping to be able to bring some wildlife concerns to the table there and see what happens.
Okay, awesome. Great. So I just want to make a note for anybody who's interested in following along with our work and taking action with our action alerts that we're putting out here kind of weekly since the session started. You can sign up for our newsletter, our e-newsletter at mtaudubon.org. And if you scroll to the bottom, just put in your name and email address and you'll be kept up to date on our work and be able to take action on our action alerts. You can also go to our website and hit news and see all the action alerts we've already done. And we did one on Senate Bill 98 that Amy mentioned. So cool. Let's move ahead a little bit and talk about sort of your experiences. And I love to get a behind the scenes look into what it's like. And usually you get to go to the Capitol, which I know is an exciting experience. But this year is different, of course, like everything else is different these days. Can you talk a little bit about how the experience of lobbying our legislature is different?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit on one of the parts that's the same is that the action alerts are so key to getting work done and us to communicate from inside the Capitol to outside the Capitol. But when it comes to working inside the Capitol, it's completely different. We've been working remotely to obviously reduce our exposure risk and to it's been really great to see the Capitol and their staff increase staff to support an opportunity to speak remotely. It's actually been something the legislature has talked about over time. We have a huge state. People go way out of their way to participate, and sometimes hearings get changed, as we see happen almost every week. Something gets rescheduled. So it's actually a good way. It's pushed the legislature to adopt some of these policies that could continue into the future and have made it really good for us for a number of reasons. But um, in some ways, it hasn't changed our ability to be present during those initial bill hearings, which is really such a great time to provide testimony on the unique perspective that we provide. And whenever we do provide that kind of perspective, we're using our mission to see what values would we add or how would we interpret this, we being the greater, all of everybody who supports that mission and supports our work there. So in some ways that part's similar, but it feels really different to obviously sit outside of the Capitol rooms because you're not hearing some of the nuances of the bills. Of there's one little story a constituent had that rose to one bill, so you're like, no kidding, this bill was the idea of one person and it was because one little issue came up. We've already heard this year an issue of, was someone trying to use an old car as a septic tank, and you think, no way, this can't be possible, those kind of things. So you miss a little bit of the detail, which often a bill that's for one constituent is not the most likely to pass. But those pieces are difficult. And of course, just tracking the progress of a bill is much more difficult because if it gets rescheduled, and it happens to get rescheduled earlier, you don't happen to be in the Capitol and jump in the room. So we've seen as a little bit easier to miss a hearing. And
Mhm.
fortunately, though, again, the staff has just been absolutely awesome. And even though it's really similar, most people don't think about this, but as lobbyists, we do actually work quite closely with committee staff every year. And if you build relationships with committee staff, you can also help get heads up on when bills do change, because they'll just, it's public information. They'll say, hey, I saw you reached out about this issue. It's actually getting switched or something like that. So having a relationship with the staff, while it's the same, it feels even more important this year, because they're going to help you get the message to the committee. They're going to help you. If the committee asks you a question, they're going to help you then respond by delivering that message, if you're, especially if you're unable to be on the Zoom meeting itself. Um, I will
Yeah.
say it's a little easier to stay hydrated, and well fed, because of not taking food into the small committee rooms. So the chairs are a little more comfortable, but
Yeah, pluses and minuses for sure. That's great. So, before we end, I just want to thank everybody for watching, and I also want to make a note that if there's anything that you want to hear, any conversations that you want to hear in the future, we hope to continue doing these little chats moving forward. Let us know what you want to hear about, what part of our work you want to know more about. You can email me at angela@mtaudubon.org. Just tell me what you want to know, and we'll try to set it up. I'm really glad that we could talk to Amy today. And Amy, I'm going to give you the last word. Is there anything else you want to add about the work this year, policy priorities, anything, any last things you want to leave in people's minds?
yeah, definitely. I think even though there are committee to committee some differences in how people are managing the online system, I would say if there's ever been a time you want to get involved, it actually is so much easier, because you don't have to drive any unsafe roads and try to get to Helena. And we're happy to help facilitate that interaction. And it really can often be as just easy as saying, hi, this is who I am. I disagree with this issue. Thank you for letting me just say I disagree. And it can be as simple as that to get started. So it's still amazingly accessible in Montana, and we don't want people to forget that. So thank you for creating this opportunity today too, because I'm excited for people to get involved. And of course, I'm reminded of that and how exciting it is every other year.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Join us again soon. And this has been a conversation with Angela and Amy at Montana Audubon. Bye.